Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Game Changers experience with myself, Adam Strong. And today we have another amazing show. We actually have an old guest that we had on just over 2 years ago. And if you don't know who she is, her name is Lisa Johnson, and I believe we had her just around, I think it was around October 21. So it's been a couple of years since we last caught up, but I invited Lisa back here on the show because there's been so much going on in her life. And I just thought, you know what? We got to have so much fun in having a conversation. And so if you don't know who Lisa is a seven-figure business strategist, and she makes 90% of her money through passive and semi-passive income streams. A very tough childhood, being living on social housing, from working up the corporate ladder to opening her first business in the wedding planning industry to now what she does today, which is working with entrepreneurs and really from an authentic and ethical way of working and stuff like that. One thing that I love about Lisa is her aura of authenticity. There is a lot of people out in our industry, and Lisa will be a testament to this. There's a lot of people out there in our industry, and they just don't practice what they preach. They're not authentic. They do not lead with integrity. And Lisa is probably one of the most integrity-led entrepreneur leaders I know on the planet. And this is the reason why I brought her back on today, because we've shared very similar core values, and we have very similar interests, which is kind of cool. So for you guys as well, Lisa also wrote a best-selling international book called Making Money Online. She also is the host of the podcast show Make Money Online as well. So make sure that you check out those two amazing resources for you guys. So what are we going to be talking a little bit about today? Well, there's a few topics that I want to retouch with Lisa here. The first thing that I want to talk a little bit about is money and our relationship with money, because you know what? Us being from the UK, we tend to have a very different relationship about money compared to other people in the world. But depending on where you're listening to this, you may or may not be able to relate to the way that you relate to money. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about money. We're going to be talking a little bit about visibility. We're going to be talking about manipulative marketing and sales tactics. And we're also going to be talking a little bit about ethics, because I've been listening to Lisa's audiobook, Make Money Online. Because audiobooks are my thing, right? I'm not really a bookworm, but audiobooks, I kind of like that thing, right? So, and we're going to be diving in some of the core topics and some of the chapters that she wrote about. And we're just going to have a little bit of fun. And if you have any questions, do me a favor, use the comments in the comment section below. That'd be super awesome as well. Now, before we go live with Lisa, if you are listening to us, do me a favor, use hashtag live, use hashtag replay. And as I like to say to everyone, PLC, post, like, or comment in the comment section below. And if you're not following me and Lisa on YouTube or on LinkedIn, make sure you go over there, follow us on those media channels, and click the bell notification, because every time we post content, you'll be able to see, and you won't miss out on anything that we're going live with. Anyway, enough chit chat from me. I digress. I want to bring the queen of passive income up, Lisa Johnson. How you doing?
Hello. I'm okay. I'm like, fingers crossed that my Wi-Fi is working, because it's been bad all day.
Great to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
You know what? I'm just kind of drawn by the wallpaper in your background. You guys are, you know what? It's really interesting, right? So we're doing a live stream for you guys that are listening on the podcast, right? So we're doing a live video right now, and she's got this amazing pink wallpaper. Well, it's kind of pink. It's like a spider web. I mean, was that your decorative interior design skills, by the way?
Yeah, it is. It's my new office. I thought, if I'm going to have an office with a good background, it needs to be eye-catching, right?
Absolutely. How are you keeping? It's been a long time.
I'm all right. It's been busy. There's been a lot going on, but finished launch last Friday, so now I can breathe again. So it's all good.
Yeah. See, it's interesting because I mean, we share a love of travel, me and you. You're either on a plane somewhere or with the twins at home, you know, doing what you do best, which is like being a mum and stuff like that. You know, how do you find it? I mean, I know we all find it, have our own challenges and stuff like that, you know, with like running a business, traveling a lot. How do you manage this all? Do you find it really challenging? And is there like an element of remorse when you kind of go away from the twins and stuff like that? Like to kind of know what your thoughts on that.
I know what you're saying, and it is always a juggle. Don't get me wrong. There is always, it's not, you know, when people say like, oh, you've got this great life-work balance, I don't believe there's such a thing. I feel like it's all just a mishmash of juggling. For instance, we took the kids out of school, and so the kids aren't going back to school now till September, which means they're here all the time.
Oh, wow.
Which is tricky, but you know, my husband works for me. So it's not like I'm doing the majority of the childcare kind of stuff. So it's all good. But yeah, I mean, I try and take them with me when I travel as much as I can. I'm doing a big retreat in New York in a couple of months. And one of my sons is coming with me because he wants to learn about business and retreats. So he sits there and he, you know, absorbs it all. And that's kind of an education in itself, isn't it?
Love it. You're a great role model. I love that. I mean, it's been a couple of years since we last kind of jammed and stuff like that. And I mean, what's not been going on in your life? I mean, I'd love to kind of like, you know, just kind of people a bit more of a snapshot about what happened over the last couple of years, because I know you've got your podcast out, you've got the book out. I mean, you're everywhere.
I like that I'm everywhere because I teach that, so good. I feel like, yeah, the book is something I've, you know, it came out in January. I've been writing it for a year. So that took up a lot of time. And the book only came about because of the podcast. You know, I got a publishing deal. Well, I got 2 publishing deals because they'd heard the podcast, which went to #1 in the UK business chart. So one thing kind of always leads to another. And then we did a big launch party for the book, and we were very fortunate enough to have it list on Sunday Times bestseller. So that was amazing. And that brought a load of PR with it. So yeah, a lot's been happening. I mean, in the background, the same thing has been happening. I've just been delivering to my clients and, you know, growing more of an audience and traveling the world.
You know, one thing I love about you is that you practice what you preach. Do you know what I mean? Like you teach, but you actually live by what you actually do. And that's quite rare, I think, from a lot of people that work in our industry. You don't see people in the spotlight like you are. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that what tends to happen is once people have made a few million, then they kind of feel further away from their audience. I never have. And I think it's because it was only 6 years ago that I was 30,000 in debt and working in corporate. It's not like it's been a long time. I still understand the issues that people feel when they're really trying to make this work, and the frustrations that happen with starting a business and growing a business. And so because of that, I don't think I've ever really had that whole gap between me and my audience. Like I feel like we're all in it together. And so when people say to me, you know, if you feel very different to other people that have made the same amount of money as you in the same, you know, industry, I think it's because of that. Like I feel like I'm in there every day trying things, testing things, seeing what works, telling my audience if it's worked or not, trying to be the pioneer that is able to experiment so that other people don't have to.
Love that. Anyway, I've been reading your book, by the way, and I've been messaging you on Messenger, of course, and there are certain things that really, I would say, like what I love about the book is it feels like I'm sitting next to you on a sofa and you're kind of like just talking to me. Well, that's what I love about the book. Do you know what I mean? Like that's quite rare when it comes to audio books. So you kind of have this like connection with somebody to think, damn, she's on the money. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there was definitely some chapters for me that, and one chapter which was, which really jumped out on me, which was the last one, chapter 11, which was all around ethics. And I love about that because it's like, one thing I love about you is you really love to ruffle a few feathers. You know what I mean?
I don't mean to, right? It just happens.
No, but the thing is, if you're not going to say anything about it, then who the hell is? Do you know what I mean? Exactly. So it's kind of, so, you know, because otherwise, if we're not, and again, I'm a big believer of self-awareness. If you're not self-aware about what's actually happening, and you're kind of like seen as like the homing beacon of like education and what we need to, what you're doing is effectively as strategists, we're protecting our clients, aren't we? That's what you're doing is, and you being a mom as well, and as parents, we protect our audience. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, and I think I'm not just protecting my audience. I am protecting me 5 years ago. So, I was conned by a lot of the things that happen in this industry 5 years ago. And when I spoke about it then, when I was making no money, people would say, well, you're only saying this because you're jealous of them. That's what people always used to say. If you talk out about any kind of ethical problem, or you talk out about anyone that's doing something slightly shady, you must be doing it because you're jealous. And so I knew that one day when I'd overtaken them all financially, I would still be able to talk about these things, and no one would be able to say it's because you're jealous because you're not making the money they are. And so that's what I did. We've made, I think we're up to about 15, 16 million now in the past 5 years or 6 years. And no one's going to look at me and say, well, you're only saying that these things are wrong because you haven't made the money. I've made the money. And so now it's my responsibility to still talk about these things. It would be easy not to, because actually what you're taught when you get to multi-seven figures is only ever be positive. Don't ever say anything negative, because if you start saying things that are negative, you're going to lose a few people, and people don't want to hear that. But actually, I think that it's our responsibility at a certain point to highlight the kind of things that are going on in an industry if you want to change that industry.
Yep, 100%. Love it. Some very good stuff there. I'd like to, I guess my kind of like my first thing is you talk a lot about authenticity, integrity, and values. Like you talk about that a lot, and I love that. Those are really great subjects to talk about. When it comes to working with clients, and especially with our audience listening in and things like that, what are some of the best advice that you would give people when it comes to, okay, so whether they're starting out or if they got an existing business, what are the things that you look for in working with clients or working with people that kind of match your core values? Are there any kind of red flags, or is there any sort of great advice that you'd have for people?
From both sides, there's red flags. So, I still work with business consultants now. I work with, sales consultants, people that can help me in some way. And I look for the same things in my suppliers or in the people that I'm going to be learning from as I do from the clients that I have. And I do tend to attract people, whether clients or not, that do have the same values as me. And one of the biggest ones really is just transparency. I just believe that whatever you're doing, make it transparent that you're doing it. So, if I've had clients before, I have had a client before in my mastermind that would be talking very openly about making multi-6, 7 figures online, but telling me that she's not making any money as a client. I can't work with that client. It goes against everything that I believe in. So I then have to say, I'm really sorry if you're going to continue to talk a different way in here than out there. That means you're not being transparent. It means you're not being honest. I can't work with you. And we parted ways. And that's the same with people that I've worked with people before that I've really looked up to for years. And then once I've worked, I think they're at a certain level. Maybe they've said that they've made multi-7 figures. And so I've gone to work with them and then find out what they meant was they've made multi-7 figures over the entire time they've been in business, not each year. And so then I can't work with them, because for me, that's just a manipulative way of getting people to work with you. Whereas even if they'd said to me they'd had half the amount that, or even a tenth of the amount that they'd made, I still would have wanted to have worked with them. I just cannot cope with dishonesty.
Yeah, I agree. I think you make a really important point, and I believe that we can be hypocrites. You know what I mean? Like we claim to be something, but actually, in true reality, was what you're saying. In true reality, it's not entirely true, is it? And I don't know the reason why they do it. Maybe it's because they want to gain a client, or I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the right intention. I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
I honestly think they've been taught it. I think that we're in this industry where the people that we've been looking up to made stuff up in the industry, because they were the first people to do it. So they didn't know. They just thought, well, maybe this is what salespeople do. Maybe this is what you do online. And they taught us certain ways of doing things. You know, the whole scarcity thing. You know, I've got 5 spots, and once those 5 spots are gone, they're gone. And everyone knows that they haven't. Or, you know, we're going to close this launch on this day. Oh, we're reopening it again for 5 days. All of that kind of stuff was taught. And so it's almost not the fault of the people doing it, because they were taught that's the thing to do. So was I. I was taught they were the things to do. But at some point we can decide there's a different way, and that we don't have to do things that way. We can do things another way and still be successful. And it's why when I do my, you know, we just had a 2.3 million launch. When we do these launches, we like to show behind the scenes at the transparency and honesty that is happening, so that people can see another way and go, well, actually, she's making a decent amount of money. She's not doing any of these she doesn't have invisible offers or any of the rest of the stuff. There's no trauma marketing going on.
Love it. You know, it's interesting, because when I started listening to your book, the whole kind of make money online thing, I don't know if it was like I was triggered by something, but because I mean you're big into kind of like passive and semi-passive income, and so the first thing that came into my mind, and I don't know whether this was me or just kind of reliving an experience, I don't know, but it was kind of like this: making money online or making passive, semi-passive income stream. Surely only music artists can do that, right? That's the first thing I was thinking about, like, you know, how can this potentially be done? And you've done a whole book and you've got a podcast show based on this, you know, and I know that there are listeners here thinking to themselves, maybe they have this element of unworthiness with regard to making money online. I'm sure you've had these conversations. What do you say to those people?
Well, they might be right in some ways. You know, there are ways that people make money online that aren't for everybody, and also that aren't, you know, ethical ways of making money online. But we all have a chance. Like, people used to advertise on the television, on the radio. People used to make money in different ways. We're now in this brilliant time of the world when we have resources available to us, a laptop, the internet, that allow us to actually make money from the things that we know. And what we definitely know is that your knowledge isn't common knowledge. Everyone thinks their knowledge is common knowledge, so they can't sell it. But what I've learned after teaching thousands of people is that it isn't. And actually, some people that have come to me with a certain knowledge, and I'll be like, I don't know whether she's going to be able to sell that. Then they go and make £500,000 from it. I'm like, people really will buy your knowledge, whatever that knowledge is. And so, yeah, like, what I think always with these kind of things, what have you got to lose by trying these things? It's free to try and make money online. You don't have to buy anything. You can just give it a go.
Yeah, love it. That's good stuff. Now, what I was going to say to you, we had similar backgrounds. Obviously, social housing, same for me. Benefits, live. Obviously, that's a past life and things like that. But also, I believe that from our childhood and from our past experience, we also have been conditioned in a way. We've been conditioned in a way that how we can relate to money, if we're worthy of money and stuff like that. How does that kind of relate back to what you've written about in the book and that kind of stuff? Do you talk about sort of, I don't know, whether call it traumas or triggers or whatever you want, is in relation to where people have been in the past, and it's kind of like, well, you know, am I worthy of this? You know,
I know what you're saying, and I think all of that is wrapped up in money mindset.
Right.
Now, I don't love the term money mindset, because there's a whole school of thought that the only reason that people aren't making money is because of their mindset. I don't believe that at all. There are privileges that I have in who I am and where I live, in the education I was able to have, that allow me to make money, whereas there are other people that are not, you know, playing from the same starting line. So money mindset, I think we need to be careful with, but there are definitely things that were taught to me when I was younger, or that I observed, that meant that I didn't believe I was worthy of making money. Or, you know, I, for a long time, thought people that come from a council house don't become millionaires. Like, that was a thing in my head. And I think that that's just because I didn't see any, and didn't, you know, we don't become what we can't see. And so, you know, I had so many issues, whether it was, you know, fancy car in a council estate goes past. No one's going, look at the lovely person in the fancy car. You know, there is swearing happening, but it definitely isn't positive. And I think that as a young person, that goes in. You take that on board and you think rich people are bad people. And I was bullied at school by rich people. And so in my head, you know, all the bad people in the world, they're the rich people. And so when you then start to try and make money in your business, if you still believe those things deep down, it's going to be very difficult for you to make money, because why would you go out and try and do something that is going to make you a bad person?
True.
And I had to do lots of work around this area and around the fact that my parents said things to me like, money doesn't grow on trees. You know, we shouldn't be greedy. We don't need that much money. You just need to live comfortably. Those kind of things meant that when I was older, they were still there. They were still in my subconscious.
How do you reprogram that though, Lisa? Don't worry about it. How do you reprogram your subconscious? Like, you know, did you have to go for counseling? How do you what's the best advice for people that have kind of maybe even still stuck? You know, even if they're 40 or 50 or 60 years old, they've still got those, you know, stigmas or subconscious programming. How did you program your subconscious?
Sorry, I think I lost you. I think you're back though.
Oh, good.
Can you hear me?
I can. I think it's your neighbor who's having a whale of a time washing his car. Anyway, I was just saying, for the people that are listening in, whether you be 40, 50, 60 years old, you know, and you've got this programming, this, you know, this subconscious programming, which is what I talked about. How did you reprogram your subconscious and trying to get yourself over that money mindset?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people do and what a lot of people teach you to do is positive affirmations, which is where you write things down on a Post-it note and you put the opposite of what you believe to be everywhere. So if you normally think, I can't make 6 figures, you're supposed to write on a piece of paper, 6 figures is on its way to me, put it everywhere, and that changes your thought process. That doesn't work on me. I've tried it. It doesn't work. I think I'm conning myself. I feel like I'm humoring myself. The thing that really worked with me is finding an opposite to the belief I held. So if I said people from council houses don't become millionaires, I would have to go and find people from council houses that had become millionaires. And that would show me that I was able to do it. So I couldn't have that thought process anymore because I'd proved to myself it wasn't true. And I did that with lots of things. So let's say I was on a launch and it was my second launch and I wanted to make 60,000. I'd have this niggle in the back of my head going, you're not going to make 60,000 on your second launch. Like, come on. And if I have that belief, I'm not going to put the effort in that I need to put in to make the 60,000, because no one puts effort in if they don't believe that something can actually come to fruition. And so what I have to do is tell myself the evidence of why I would make the 60,000. So this is your second launch. The first launch you made 30,000. You've had more interest since then. You've got people on a wait list. You know, I would show myself the reasons it would work to convince myself otherwise. But positive affirmations wasn't the one with me. It just didn't really do it. But I know it does for some. It can work for some.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I have to admit, positive affirmations can only take you so far, and then you kind of like, this is all bullshit. Like, this doesn't really work, really, does it? Like, but you've just kind of really put it on its head and just said, I'm going to go find those rich people that used to be in the camp. I mean, there's so many rags to riches stories out there, isn't Lisa? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like when Lord Sugar had set up his first business on a market stall, for example. You know, there were so many great stories out there that you kind of look towards and think, do you know what? You know, not everyone is born with a silver spoon in their mouth type of thing. Do you know what I mean?
There's a reason why now I often talk about money online. I show my Stripe accounts. I don't just show them, I show what it's made from, and I break everything down. But the reason that I do that is to show people what's possible, because I found it really difficult when I was starting to find people online from the same kind of background as me that had made that kind of money. And so now I want to be that person that shows other people, oh, actually, Lisa's pretty normal. If she can do it, then maybe I've got a chance and I can believe it's possible. And so I'll go and try and set up my business. And that's why I do it. People often say, oh, you're just bragging and all these kind of things. Like, there are easier ways to brag than on the internet. It's to show people what's possible.
I guess also, one thing that, and again, this is from a personal perspective, right? So I see, obviously we have very similar connected people, and there are people online that post like flashy cars or whatever it might be, and I just think to myself, you know what, that's probably the complete polar opposite to what, like, not what I'm about, but it doesn't help me want to make more money. Does that make sense? I don't know if it's the same for you.
Success is different for everybody. Like, right. I drive a Fiat 500. Success is not the same for everyone. Like, I love to travel. I'll spend money on holidays. Some people, the success for them is to spend more time at home with their kids and go for walks in the woods. Whatever your version of success is what you need to be showing out there, because there are other people that will want your version of success. Not everybody wants the flashy Dubai life, like we see a lot of out there at the moment. That's not what I want. It's not what other people want.
Absolutely. Interestingly enough, there was something that sort of cropped to my mind actually, but I've lost my train of thought, but I'll come back to it in a second. They just hate that when and then you suddenly, oh damn, I just lost that train of thought. Anyway, I want to talk a little bit about getting visible online, because I know that you've got a great framework for a lot of people that are online, people that have starting out, trying to get some traction, maybe bringing in some leads, maybe trying to build some relationships and some human connection. When you have those conversations, especially with your visibility challenge that you run every sort of few months, every 3-6 months, what's the framework with regards to getting yourself online? And do you have to be everywhere and anywhere to earn passive and semi-passive income?
No, you don't. First off, I believe that you need to be consistent, but I think where people get that confused is with the word constant. You do not have to be constantly everywhere and online and out there and showing up. You just have to be consistent. Now, consistent for someone might be once a week. It doesn't matter as long as there is that consistency. I also believe that the reason why lots of people get visibility wrong, because they're being taught one method. And I believe that what you need is a multi-layered visibility strategy. And when it comes to, and this is a method that I created that appears to work for the majority of my clients, which is to not just have one method of visibility, but multi-layer it up with things that are out there for a long period of time. A podcast is a really good example. If I'm on a podcast 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I will still get people seeing me and coming into my audience today from something I did 3 years ago. It's almost the passive income idea in visibility form. You want something that's going to continue to keep giving you visibility over time. So a book is a good example of that. Whereas what I see a lot of people do is concentrate all of their efforts on doing lives. Lives are great, but a live is seen when you do that live or Instagram story, and then it's gone. Right. No one goes and looks back for lives. It's there and then it's gone. That's great. Have that and have your email list, but then layer on some visibility things, some methods of visibility that are also going to mean people seeing you when you're not there. So sometimes I'm out of my business for an entire month. I go traveling for a month and I do absolutely nothing on social media or anywhere. Nothing. But people text me going, God, you're everywhere at the moment. Like, I haven't even done anything for a month. But because I've done things in the past that seem to be everywhere, like I might have done some stuff for PR or a reel last year that my team are now putting back on, the PR and the reels, it looks as if I'm there. but I'm not. And it's just making things easier for yourself at the end of the day. Like, try and be seen everywhere without actually having to do much work.
Do you and again, I suppose this is kind of more of a personal question, but I mean, we just had the Easter holidays, and I haven't really been online that much. It's probably the same for you as well, because kids and whatever. Do you ever kind of get this? And I know that audience members will definitely get this kind of like feeling of guilt because they've been away from the business for like, I don't know, and then suddenly they go into panic mode. They think, oh my God, like my to-do list is at least 15 pages long. And they become so stressed and overwhelmed. Do you ever experience that, number one? And for some of your clients, I know that they can do. You say to them?
I used to experience it. So I used to, if I was away for even 3 days, I'd be like, I haven't shown up, I haven't been there, my audience will be wondering where I am. We think people care a lot more than they do about what we're doing and where we are. Feel like you can be away much longer than that, as long as you've put some stuff in place. Batch content stuff, schedule stuff, and then it won't really matter because no one will even know you've been gone. No one notices that you've been gone except you. Like, we care much more. Like, I missed my weekly email once and was like, oh my God, everyone's going to be so annoyed. No one even noticed, because who notices out of the myriad of emails that they get? I think that we think people think about us a lot more than they think about us.
It's not as if they diarize and think, oh, Leah's post is coming. I'm expecting at 11 o'clock on Thursday morning. Why she didn't do it? I'm so concerned now. It's like, oh my God, they go crazy. Anyway, it's so funny. Love it. Anyway, for you guys that are listening in, by the way, if you are listening to us live, do me a favor. Use the hashtag live, use the hashtag plan. If you've got any questions of me and Lisa around making money online, feel free to put any questions. And if you do it a little bit later on, that's okay too. Me and Lisa will try and get back to you. Interesting enough, I remember, I think it was at the beginning of this year, or maybe it was last year. It was you're really big on something that I listened to in your audiobook, which is all about trolls and people attacking your integrity, your authenticity, because it damages our brand and stuff. And I know that recently you won a massive court case, right? Which was in the newspaper, which is really, really big. I suppose my first question is how do you deal with that emotionally, and because some people, they might think to themselves, you know what, I'm just going to push this under the carpet and crack on. But what's your take on this? Like, where is there a fine line between stepping over that fine line and taking action, or kind of just brushing it under the rug?
Don't get me wrong. I used to brush things under the rug because it's easier, isn't it? And we know it's going to be a nightmare if we start trying to fight everybody, every hater online, or everybody that says something derogatory about us. The reason this one was different is because when it first happened, and actually the 2 times before that someone had lied about me online, I used to be a lawyer. So the first thing I did was look at to see if I could find legal precedent of a case where this had happened before and what the outcome was, to see whether it was worth me fighting it or not. I couldn't find a single one in our industry, not one. The reason that I did this one is because I wanted everybody to have a precedent case that they could say, if you continue lying about me online, I will use the precedent of Lisa Johnson versus Emma Hammond to make sure that you get sued, because there wasn't one that people could use and there wasn't one I could use. So I decided to become that precedent case, which is a risk, but hey, you've got to take these risks, haven't you? So I knew that I had proof that every single thing she had said was a lie, because I keep everything. So even from little things, she said that I'd forced her to come into a course. I'd recorded the conversation. I record everything. So I had all this proof. Now, what I didn't realize, because I haven't practiced in law for some time, was that I don't need to prove anything. She does. So I didn't need to use any of the proof that I had, and she couldn't prove anything because none of it happened. And in fact, she very quickly, after just a few chats with my lawyer, disengaged with the process completely because she knew she'd had it. And we offered her an out many times. I knew that she had mental health issues. I didn't want to exacerbate that. So many, many times we said, look, this has been going on a year. All you need to do is tell the truth to the same people you lied to, and that will be it'll be gone. I won't even, ask you to pay costs. It cost me 35,000 up until that point.
Wow.
And I won't even charge you, because the whole point of this is to show that this can't happen. People aren't able to just lie. She wouldn't do it. Her pride got the better of her. And so we went to court. I won the highest amount of damages plus costs that you could possibly get. And that's where we are.
Ouch.
But, you know, there was no
That's
need
sad.
for it. Yeah.
It is sad, but you know, it's interesting, right? So I recently won a court case as well, and I didn't want to do it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it just isn't me. And it's probably the same for you. It's like, this is the absolute last resort. But if the other person isn't going to play ball, then what can you do? It's like your hands are tied, but then it's kind of like emotionally, you're kind of going through this like mindset in you're going through this thing in your mindset. Your subconscious starts talking to you, and your inner critic starts kicking in. Do you have that same thing?
Oh,
you did?
All year I kept thinking, am I doing the right thing? The thing that kept me going was the people in my inbox saying, you know, someone has said if I don't give them a refund, they're going to talk bad about me all over social media. I don't know what I can do about this. That's what kept me going, because I was like, unless someone takes this all the way, people are going to continue to think that they can do this. But now they will know that they can't, because there's something that they can do about it. I even felt guilty for her. Like, she'd said the most awful things about me. Like, I was a bully, I was a fraudster, I'd made her want to kill herself. Like, you can't even imagine the things she said.
Wow.
And that hundreds and hundreds of my clients and ideal clients were reading and commenting on. Still, my biggest worry was for her mental health throughout the whole thing, not mine, hers.
That's crazy.
And then I realized at the end of it that I've got to stop being like that. People have to have, you know, I have mental health issues. It doesn't mean I go around doing bad things. And I think that eventually we have to realize that actions have consequences. And it's not my job to make sure everybody's okay.
That's true.
So yeah, it was difficult. I went through many iterations of I'm not going to do this. It doesn't feel like the right thing to do. Am I in integrity if I'm making somebody go to court with this? And that's why it cost more for me to do, because I kept saying to my lawyer, can we give another chance? Maybe she'll have decided she wants to tell the truth now. Like, let's give her the option, which nobody else would have done, because it cost me more. And there's no guarantee I will ever get the money owed to me in damages. You know, you have to jump through hoops to do that. And I'd already promised that any of the money that we get would go straight to Bullies Out, which is a charity I am an ambassador of. But I had to keep giving her those chances. But if after all of that, I just had to say to myself, you know, there's only so much you can do before actually you have to go all the way.
Yeah. Some good points there. Love it. Some good stuff there. I know that in your book you talk a little bit about your is it a values blueprint or values you talk to certain values approach, and you talk a little bit about certain questions that we have to ask ourselves in order to make sure that who we're connecting with, you know, matches our core values with what we're actually about as individuals and stuff. What are, from your perspective, what are some of the core questions that we need to ask ourselves with regards to making sure that we're not only practicing what we preach, but we're also doing what we need to do authentically and with integrity about ourselves?
Do you know what? I think there's only one real question that you need to always ask yourself when it comes. There's loads of questions you can ask to make sure that you know what your actual values are and that you are in integrity. But the biggest value is, would you still be doing the same thing that you're about to do if no one could see? I think there is so much out there that people do when people can see they're doing it, like integrity wise. But behind closed doors, it's completely different because no one can see it. Like, just ask yourself, like, really think about who you are and who you want to be as a person. I think this is easier when you have kids, because then you can ask yourself, would you still feel proud of something you're doing if you explain to your kids how you're doing it?
Right.
And that can definitely make you start thinking, God, no, you know, maybe I won't do that particular course of action because I wouldn't be that proud of myself for doing that, whether it's a lie or an exaggeration. And it's very easy to tell ourselves everyone does it. I remember when the invisible offers thing came out, one person did it, and then everybody did it. And invisible offers is trauma marketing at its worst. It was called ghost offers in the 80s. It got banned, and now suddenly the online audience have found it, and everyone did it. And when I said to people, this is why it's bad, I want you to just understand why I don't think you should do it. And I tell them how it makes people feel, how people feel pressured to buy when prices go up and they don't even know what they're buying, and that kind of thing. And the overriding answer that I got was, but everybody's doing it. And I feel like we need to stop thinking just because everyone's doing something, it must be okay. What do I feel about it? Can I sleep at night and do this? Because at the end of the day, there's no point making millions of pounds if you can't sleep at night. You won't like who you are.
It's true. So true. Love that. Some good stuff. Last kind of, I know we kind of come into the end of our conversation, but I want to go back to what we were talking about, which was around manipulative marketing tactics, because I feel like there is, I mean, in our industry, we're kind of bombarded with, whether it be trauma marketing that you mentioned, whether it be NLP tactics, whether it be manipulation in one way, shape or form, honing down on, people's emotions and things like that. In terms of like self-awareness, because I think this is, and maybe we should just do like some sort of big mission around trying to create people's self-awareness around manipulative marketing. Because I'm not a fan of it at all. I know you're not, clearly, but what are the, for our audience members, especially listening in and stuff like that, what are some of the things that we need to look for? Because we're going to be triggered, right? Then it's going to be, not even triggered. There's going to be things that's going to like, we're going to want to fulfill, or we're going to feel that we need to act because of something they said or done or whatever it is. What are some of the things that we need to look for with regards to thinking to themselves, let's take a back step here, ladies and gents.
Yeah.
And let's kind of like really ask certain questions about this particular offer or what they're actually saying to be true. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think there's a few things we can do. I mean, red flags are, is it making you feel less than about yourself? Is somebody making you feel small? Examples of this. Oh, well, if you need to ask your husband whether you should spend this money, you're not really a businesswoman. We see that all the time when someone says, I just need to discuss it with my family. Of course, you're going to discuss it with the person that loves you the most. It makes no sense for someone to attack you for that. So if someone's making you feel small in any way, or saying, you will never make money unless you pay me this money, unless you do this, you're going to be stuck. There's all sorts of things that people are taught when it comes to selling. One of the things that people are taught, there are phrases that people use to close a sale. Now, you shouldn't have to do anything to close a sale. If your offer is good enough and that person needs your solution, they'll buy it. True. If people say, I can't afford it, if people say things like, I don't think it's the right time, what we often get taught to say is, well, what's going to change between now and next year? Or is your life going to be as bad then? This is trauma marketing. This isn't something that we should be doing. FOMO, fear of missing out. Everyone's coming in apart from you. They're all going to be way further ahead than you are. That's just FOMO. I think one of the biggest things we can do is give ourselves time. So if we're thinking about buying something, never say yes straight away. Do not let someone close you on a call. Just wait, have a think about it, and then go back. Have a real think about whether you need it. Do your due diligence. I don't mean hype. There's a load of hype online about certain people, because it's easy to create hype. I could create hype around me if I wanted to. It's pretty easy to do. You don't need to believe any of that. The best thing to do is do your due diligence. Go and talk to somebody who has actually done the program. Outside of everything else, go and talk to them and say, how was it? And get a real feel for whether it is something that could help you. Do your due diligence around whether something is accredited or not. People are often talking about, this is a certified program. Is it certified by them in their bedroom, printing a certificate out? Or, like my programs, is it certified by a regulatory body? It's a different thing. And yet, you know, I know massive coaching companies that are talking about how you'll be a certified NLP practitioner. And then you find out they're not even certified as NLP practitioners, but they're, you know, they're writing a certificate to say you're certified. It doesn't mean anything to anyone. So just
True.
do, you know, just take some time to do your research. I'm not judging you if you don't do this. I spent £5,000 on an awful mastermind last year. But it was my problem because I didn't do the due diligence. So I didn't ask for a refund. I just left because it wasn't up to him to tell me what I needed to know. I should have gone and talked to people. And I've since gone and talked to people who have done it, who have told me, oh, no, it was awful. I didn't do that beforehand. My problem.
Well, I know that we can kind of like rush into things, you know, like you've just clearly made an error in your judgment, which cost you 75 grand, of course, but rushing into things is never a good thing. But also, I don't know. I think it was yourself that actually posted this, but I know that I've actually written an article on this, which is teaching the importance of patience. You know what I mean? So teaching how to be patient in business is actually a really good thing. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I just wrote a post about this a couple of days ago, and I put in that post, if I could give entrepreneurs one trait, it would be patience.
Yeah.
I have so many people that are on the right track to make money and to do well in business that look around the internet, and because everyone's telling them that they should make 6 figures in 3 weeks or whatever the new term is, they think they're doing badly when actually they're doing fine. And if they just carried on for another year with the same strategy, it would work. But the shiny object syndrome, well, this person says that they can do it quicker. So they change tack, change messaging, do something different, go and give their money to somebody else. And they never get anywhere because they're not patient. When actually all we need to do, I think pretty much every strategy works. There are a million ways to make £1 million, right? You just need to stick to one, but most people don't. I've stuck to the same strategy for 6 years.
And it works. There you go. I mean,
eventually it does. It didn't in the first 5 months. It takes time.
Takes time, exactly. You know, I think, but it's like you said, it's kind of like you have this expectation that, you know, you expect something work to happen tomorrow when actually in reality it's not really going to materialize or, you know, kind of mature into something for maybe, like as you said, in your case, 5 months.
Yeah, I think that anything you're doing in your business now, realistically, you don't see the results from for 6 months.
Yeah, and you have to be realistic like that. It's pretty cool. So what's next? Come on, Lisa. Give us a little bit of I want to kind of like dabble a little bit here. Done the book, done the podcast. That was now 2 years in the making. What is it? TV show? Lisa Johnson?
That's what I'd like next.
Movie? Okay,
yeah.
okay. So
my big goal is I would love to be on television talking about money. Think about Martin Lewis. Yep. I would like to be the female down-to-earth version of Martin Lewis. Not just talking about how to make money, although I would love to talk to people about that, you know, normal people who can make money, but also how to invest, how to save money, what to look out for, how not to be conned online. I would love to be talking about those things to a bigger audience. That would
By the way, just for full disclosure, Lisa is not a financial advisor and doesn't claim to be. I just want to say that because I know that was going to come anyway. But I love that. And by the way, for you guys that are out of the UK, Martin Lewis is a kind of like money guru, just in case you didn't know. I can't remember the website. But anyway, Martin Lewis, you can type it in. Anyway, it's all good. All right, cool. So listen, guys, if you know of anyone that can maybe help Lisa and give her an introduction to, you know where to come, right? In fact, we'll talk offline because I might have someone that might be able to open a few doors. Anyway, so that's kind of cool. Listen, Lisa, I just want to say thanks very much for being on the show today. It's been an absolute wonders to catch up.
I've lost you again. I've been losing you this whole time, but I've got you back again now.
You got me back. You got me back. That's good. I was just saying to the guys, I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate you coming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's always good to sit and chat with you.
Good stuff. And for you guys that are listening in either live or on the podcast, make sure that you follow me and Lisa here on LinkedIn and on YouTube. Click on the bell notification. If you're listening to us on YouTube, on the podcast, make sure you do that on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon Music. Make sure that you also leave a 1 or 5-star review. Like I said, there is no pressure here. There are no manipulation that's happening here. I just would like it if you could be open and honest and write a true review between me for me and Lisa's show anyway today. So from me and Lisa, I just want to say thank you so much for listening in today. We hope you're having a great day, week, month, if you listen to this, and we'll see you soon. Take care and see you soon.